Hi, it's Kyle back with you. Here to talk about more of my books, in particular one that is called Earth Time's Up. It has a question mark at the end. I'll close the lid of the computer, get rid of some of the glare. And right now, I want to tell you that writing fiction is nothing like they teach you in English class in school. It is, in fact, quite opposite. In English class, they teach you outlines, the Roman numerals, and that works great in table of contents for non-fiction books. It works great for outlining non-fiction books. Fiction is a load of garbage. And in my personal opinion, I have 35 books, 30 screenplays still writing. So, for me, those outlines totally useless. Or totally useless, excuse me. As far as the way I write and the way I've been told other people write is very similar. It is, and I'll take my glasses off for a minute to get rid of the glare, excuse me. Anyway, you come up with the initial idea for the book. And like Earth Time's Up is a disaster-based book. You come up with the premise, the initial premise, which I'll get into with that in a minute. Then the book can basically write itself. You're just the tool with the pen in your hand, if you do notebooks, which I did before I typed them up, or the two hands typing. You're just the vessel of the story that needs let out. Now, I base most of my protagonists on some part of my personality. Whether that's when I was younger, whether it's now, whether it's something I want my personality to be in the future, and I'm going to put these back on. Anyway, I base most of my protagonists on some characteristic of me, or myself if you prefer. And conversely, my antagonists, I base either upon a personality of me that I don't like, or one I used to have that I didn't like, or of someone I particularly don't care for in real life. And then I go from there. I mean, there's my outline. Premise for book. In this case, the one I'll talk about now is a disaster-related book, and I'll tell you the only premise I had, and then it ran wild. And then you come up with your protagonist, personality you want them to have, and your antagonist, and you start. I mean, people have said the hardest part of writing a book is the very first page. And whoever said that is a very, very wise person. Because I've been known to start 5 or 6 books, not really at one time, but within the same month to 2 months, get them about 20 pages in or so, and put one to the forefront and the rest on the back burner. That way, you go back to them, the hard part is done. The first page is written. So you're good. That's a little bit of wisdom for you people that want to be writers, or you writers that are having trouble. Start a few. The first page is out of the way, so you're good. Alright, on to Earth Time's Up. Like I said, with the question mark is at the end. It begins with 15-year-old Zach Granger, a genius high school student in the field of physics, taking his girlfriend Cameron out on a date. They go ice skating. She twists her ankle. They go back to a field near the lab Zach's dad works at, who Zach works with part-time, but not at that night. They went there for a particular reason to watch a meteor shower. And Zach's dad was working in the lab charting the meteor shower, and all of a sudden one asteroid comes close to the atmosphere, bouncing off. Cameron naturally gets frightened, and Zach tells her to be okay. He helped his father do the pre-work to know they're not going to get any closer. Well, Zach's dad comes out and yells at his son to get Cameron out of there. An asteroid, meteor, whichever you call it, I use both terms in the book when appropriately necessary, breaks through the atmosphere and obliterates the lab where Zach's father works, killing him and a few other scientists instantly. Well, Zach took Cameron to his house, which was not far. He was shaken up naturally, seeing his father killed. And they tried to call Cameron's parents and Zach's mother. All three were out shopping together, and she got a hold of her father, and he mentioned something about tornadoes automatically appeared out of nowhere. Well, then the phone went dead because the tornadoes were heat vaporizing tornadoes, for lack of better terminology. And everything they touched, they vaporized. Zach's mother, both of Cameron's parents were incinerated by tornadoes, along with several other people, of course. And Cameron was very shaken up, even though they did not know what happened, that they lost connection. And after seeing that meteor, Zach tried to comfort her. She finally fell asleep in the basement. And during the night, several scientists came in, and some made fun of Zach, saying he took advantage of his girlfriend after seeing his father dead, and all he was doing was sleeping. And they took him and Cameron to a secure lab to work on the problem because, as I said, Zach worked with his father and was a genius. Now, outside the storyline, do I consider myself a genius in physics? Absolutely not. I know some about the subject, but not towards the genius level. So I'm not saying that. Now, Zach begins to work with them on the problem. Cameron gets sick, and she dies. Zach, of course, is devastated and has to take time off after finding a possible solution to the problem. Just before he knew Cameron got sick. They took him to rest, and the older scientist and age discrimination used the direct opposite method of what Zach suggested, and the problem stopped. Everything was fine. When Zach woke up, he found out what they'd done, which was detonate a nuclear bomb over a hole that had formed in the earth, and he called them idiots because that would stop the problem for a few hours only to make it drastically worse. They scoffed. Well, a few of them scoffed. One named Henry Franks. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at it right now. Henry Lasco. And then they found out the problem got ramped up worse. More tornadoes, all directed over water, evaporating it. 2, feet of snow falling. A lot of different places over the earth, including places snow had never fallen. Africa, different deserts around the world besides the ones in Africa. And tsunamis, hurricanes, other twisters not overwatered that were regular twisters, everything. If it was weather related, it was going on. And then Zach is charged with coming up with a different solution, dealing with not only the death of his girlfriend, but his own hidden problem, his own lethal problem that he told nobody about. As the days went by, the president and cabinet arrived with the president's daughter. The president didn't like nor respect Zach because Zach was the same age as the president's daughter. Now, there was nothing between them except a quick friendship, but the president assumed something else. Zach tried to come up with the solution, then he collapsed. A doctor that was there, who also had a medical degree, Dr. Larissa Feinhardt, checked him out, figured out what was wrong, or at least partially what was wrong. When he regained consciousness, he finished telling them. Then he told the rest of the group he had had a radiation problem 2 years before in an accident during an experiment he and his father had, and there was no medication where they were. So he was dying. The president also had a brain tumor that was found out, but they tried to help that. And so Zach put in a call to his cousin, Ryan Eric, a few years older, but equally brilliant. He had left the field because he couldn't get along with people, though. All this going on, he's trying to help someone with a multiple personality disorder get away from a gang trying to rape her. And they headed to where Zach and his father had lived, because Ryan had been raised by Zach's father, but moved away to become a detective, leaving the field of science altogether. Zach decided to leave after not being trusted. Then the president's daughter went after him, so he had to go back. He left a second time. She followed him a second time. A gang attacked her. Zach defended her and got a stab wound to the abdomen. He managed to fight them off and get her back, but he left. In the meantime, when he left, he saw a statically charged small lake. He stepped out in it because he was dying anyway. It shocked him, healed him for a moment, and he found the solution to string theory. Enter Ryan, who was informed all this, who also didn't get along with the president, tried to find a solution for a town they could harbor in during the storms while they found a solution. A murder was committed. Ryan was charged with it. A second murder was committed. Ryan was charged with it. He found the culprit, which was Dr. Louis Feinhardt's husband and an accomplice, a husband of one of the other doctors. And it turns out, I won't give you the ending to the book, but it turns out the president died. And you can find out if Ryan Eric solved the problem, or if Earth's time was really up. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.